So for those of you who are just tuning in, Colin sustained an injury on the job.
You can say that.
Yeah. By the way, bro, your camera's not on. So
Okay.
FYI. It doesn't have to be.
That's cool. I can lounge and nurse myself, nurse my wound. I can be the mysterious stranger.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah.
If that works for you.
So this is Colin's first injury that he sustained. Colin, what do you do exactly? For the listeners.
I'm a truck driver. I drive a vehicle that is of the semi-truck variety, and they can get up to be 80,000 pounds, otherwise 40 tons, and you take things from one area and then you transport them to another area.
Wow. Mind-blowing.
Yes.
Well, for any one of you who may be listening that don't know, Colin and I are co-moderators for this Facebook group called, well, it's actually Exertus's Facebook group, right? That's his thing. It's called Advanced Philosophy Memes. And it's quite an eclectic group of people who get together and pretend to talk about philosophy, but really we're just there to shit on people that we disagree with. Everyone's just there to murder, hatchet murder each other with words, pretty much.
That's definitely one way to put it.
No, I mean, I literally...
We lovingly call it APM. It's our loving way.
Yeah, no, it was funny. I literally saw... Remember that person you had a vague argument, a Sid Noor or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I added Sid to the group, and I didn't think... every time I add Sid to a group, Sid's always never participates, but this time, he actually did participate, and I was and I literally saw him say, well, what I like about this group is that you could hatchet murder each other with words. And I was like, oh, wow, I guess that really is the appeal.
It's pretty good. I like to tell myself that I'm there for higher purposes, that it is an experiment in world peace, in bringing each other together with the most outlandishly extreme views you can possibly have, all thrown into one arena. And if we can find a way to not murder each other, something has been achieved. That's my view.
I mean, it's funny because we say outlandish, but it's really not that outlandish. What is outlandish is the lengths I think the people in that group go to to defend their shit. But I don't think the beliefs themselves are outlandish.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's definitely perfectly quote unquote reasonable stuff that you'll find all corners of the internet talking about in one way or another, right?
Yeah. Also, I don't know. I mean, it's also interesting because I mean, the demographic of people you'd find consistently participating in a Facebook group every single day, they're probably not typically the most productive people, right? Unless very special exceptions, what if they have a job where they just have a shit ton of fucking free time on their hands or something,
Right.
But then there must be other cases where it's there's that's just that's where they live. They live on the internet because on the internet is where they're free to express themselves without persecution.
It's funny you mentioned that. It seems like there's all sorts of that in the group, but there also seems to be some pretty quote unquote impressive people in that group that have real lives and real jobs and they're doing things out in the world.
Well, I think that's really because of Exertus, because I mean, Andreas probably fucking just knows how to I don't know, maybe it's just character, maybe it's just something about his his aura or demeanor that attracts both fucking incompetent weirdos but also interestingly brilliant minds.
Totally. I think there's definitely a wide spectrum of people from every corner.
Oh yeah. And some of the...
So,
what were you saying?
Go on.
No, what were you saying?
Go ahead. Oh, I was just gonna throw out there, like, is there anything in particular you want to talk about? Because there are so many subjects in the world.
All right. So the current thing right now, the newest thing we could say is is that whole Olympics thing. Because I mean, that's just really one small thing, though, in my eyes. I think that's just more indicative of a wider phenomenon that's going on with people right now. Like, I'm not saying people are becoming religious, but I definitely do think more people, especially our age, are thinking about it, are considering it. You know, it was really easy for.
They at least they try and say in the more conservative corners of the net that there's like a mass exodus back towards religion occurring right now. I don't know if it's true or if that's like PR. So like people will think that it's happening, so they're going to go do it because like, oh, it's happening. You know, I don't know.
Well, I could tell you this much. I mean, when I got into it, I did it. I wasn't pushed into. Well, maybe I kind of was. I mean, what pushed me into it was David Grush, right? Because David Grush kind of spilled some like little droplets, giblets in front of Congress. And that sent me down this rabbit hole. And that's when I discovered like it's not like I discovered really something totally new. It's just things I vaguely heard before and was like, that's just fucking ridiculous. No fucking way.
All right. Will you give me some background on who that is? Because I actually am not sure who that is. So what happened?
David Grush, I think it was sometime like last summer. This motherfucker works for like the CIA, or he was like downstream from some intelligence agency, and he was tasked with investigating like reports of all these government black budget programs and such and such. Yeah, and he went before Congress and was basically like, the U.S. government.
Can we swear on this?
What do you mean? Yeah.
Can we swear? Okay, because I was gonna say that's the good shit. I like where this is going. Go on.
Yeah, so David Grush does that last year. It was kind of a big deal, I think. So I mean, at least for me, like I've never seen that in my life when someone who was actually taken seriously like so quickly by the news and everything, and well, also probably because the viral nature of the internet probably spread it a lot faster. But yeah, I mean, that's I think it was like the timing when that happened was also around.
I mean, you're right. I mean, this is totally a new phenomenon, though. I mean, people like me, at least, have been waiting for this day to come for 20 years, at least 30 years, 40 years, some people, right? And because there's never been an utterance of that kind of thing in Congress at all. And that it has, it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. And so that kind of put me down like this rabbit hole. And it's not like someone gave me irrefutable proof about like MJ12 and the aliens and the connection to like, you know, the reptilians and the satanic like Masonic practices with the kids. It's all connected, obviously. I mean, that's what they're all trying to like allude to, but that it's one thing to like hear about alien conspiracies, and that's fun. Like that's cool to hear about. You're like, oh shit, this is fucking fascinating. But then once you go into like, oh, actually, like, you know, the top people who in the world who are actually in control of this stuff, they're engaging in like these rituals that involve like sexually doing unspeakable things to kids and like killing them, and it's all for the sake of power and harvesting like negative energy. And it's, you know, that put me down it gave me kind of like an existential crisis, right?
Sure, dude. I mean, that's the problem, is that people they hear that and they are so quick to disregard it. And I think that's unfortunate, and it's just probably human nature. But I mean, people that got a lot of money don't have to answer to as many people. If they're not good people, are going to get up to exponentially weirder and more like dark shit than you ever could possibly. I mean, it's not even in. So of course it's hard to imagine, right? But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen sometimes.
But another part of it was like the state I was in to receive such information, right? Like at some point, if this was like 3 years ago, I would have heard shit like that and I would have just scoffed it off. I would have been like, oh, I got bigger shit. Like, let me know if the aliens are willing to pay my rent. Like, you know, I don't need to worry about this hokey shit. But last year happened to be a time in my life when I finally like got over a lot of like personal hangups. I was in a good state because I just won like a sword tournament for the first time in my life. It was just a good point. So I think I was more receptive to like possibilities, and it hit me all at once. So I was like, what? It was like the timing was just too perfect. And it's not like I'm just like obsessively about like, oh, we got to stop the reptilians and the Illuminati and the Masonic cults and all that shit. But I am more conscious of it, you know, like I'm like, it's there. It's clearly there. A lot of people were just like me 2 years ago where they were like, oh, I got rent to pay, you know, like I don't got to deal with this shit right now, you know?
Right. Yeah. It's not even on their radar. And if it is, it's funny. And it's not though, because it's not, but, you know, I can understand it. And I know what you're saying, man. Like, I mean, I'm kind of different because I've been a weirdo like my whole life. And so this stuff is just par for the course for me, to be honest. Like, you know, you hear enough stories. I used to listen to Coast back when it was cool, back when Art Bell was alive.
Yeah.
And I grew up listening. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's legendary. He's a hood legend. And one of the most amazing people probably to ever live in the last 100 years, in my opinion. And, you know, they talk about all sorts of crazy stuff all the time. And back then, it was before things got quite so commercialized. It was before Ancient Aliens and that blew up. It was like, it used to be this, you know, it was a nighttime broadcast that went from, you know, when everybody else is asleep that doesn't want to hear these things, is from 11 o'clock to 3 where I lived. 4 hours of just talking about stuff that is paranormal and weird. And so I was exposed to a lot of this kind of stuff when I was as young as 7, 8, you know, and I used to laugh at it and stuff like that. But gradually, as I started to hear more people's stories, started to hear the seriousness in some people's voices. Like, you have people telling stories, they're telling stories, right?
Yeah.
But every once in a while, maybe, you know, 1 out of 20 people, you can hear in their voice that they're serious, that they do believe what they're saying and they want to tell you. Well, and you hear enough of that stuff and it adds up.
Well, it's also, there's something to be said about how like more often than not, you think of these stories and these reports and you're like, they're always coming from some like average Joe or schmuck, like who lives in like some fucking trailer park or who works at like some shit fast food job. And it's like, why the fuck should we believe this guy? But within the past couple of years, I feel like that turned into like people with like PhDs, people like actual pilots, you know, like actual like,
yeah, substantial people with like prestige, with stuff on the line.
Exactly.
Right?
And they're coming out and they're starting to say like, listen, this stuff is real shit. Okay. And like, I think that's another thing that's like causing people to like, you know, more people to like take, like, you know, look twice. They're like, what the fuck? You know, like what's the former deputy director of this intelligence agency doing, talking, saying like aliens and demons are real and shit. The fuck is this?
Yeah, man, it's pretty far out, which of course my knee-jerk reaction is when people like that start talking about stuff like that, then it's fake. It's immediately fake.
Yeah.
That's me, because like, you know, like, why is it suddenly okay to talk about, right? And so there's that part of me that like eternal skeptic that's like, okay, like what's the spin? You know, like they can't be serious. But then there's the other part of me that's like, dude, what if this is organically happening and what's going on out there?
Well, even if it isn't just organically happening, like there's no way the government or the powers that be had like an indefinite plan of non-disclosure. Like there was always supposed to be something at play, right? To slowly drip feed the information to the general public. So by the time it does fully get out, like we're not all like fucking, we're not all going to lose our fucking shit, you know? Like, yeah,
we're not like ants in an anthill climbing over the top of each other and shit.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah,
you know, Godzilla, like, you know, you don't want that either. I mean, in society.
Yeah, that had to be part of the plan, right?
Right. A lot of people think that whole War of the Worlds thing is like, that was around when it started. And they're like, okay, we're going to test out, like, okay, like, we're going to play it off as a joke, to do this broadcast in the 20s or whatever it was, right? I can't remember when it was. But, and they're like, okay, so we're going to see how people react. And obviously they freaked out. Because they had no reason back then, like, nobody didn't trust the radio. Like the radio was the radio, it's there for you, you know? And so everybody took it seriously. And the people that did, like, I don't know the extent of it, but I know that there was some serious panic, like real panic going on at a pretty wide scale.
Yeah, I mean, like stuff like that didn't even go away. Like aside from the alien believers and also the counter believers, there's also the people who insist that, like, listen, the government could easily just end up like faking an alien invasion. Like, sure, aliens may have came into contact with us before. Aliens may be in contact with us now, but there could be a chance that they could have no intention of communicating with us, and our own governments could be colluding to create like fake alien ships, you know, like fake UFOs. I mean, stuff that's actually made with technology far beyond what we could ever consider. But to us, it would be indistinguishable from an actual like alien ship that's here to invade us, you know?
Totally. And do you want to know what I think in my heart of hearts?
What?
I'll tell you what I think, to be honest, is that deep down, what I really do think, even though I am skeptical of the intentions of all of this going on, is that it is real. It legitimately is some sort of other intelligence. What kind, I don't know, but something else. There may be different factions of it, and maybe they compete or something, and I don't know. You know, I mean, it's not like you're going to have a monolith species, dude. Like if they did, they'd be like a hive mind or something. Like there's going to be good and bad members of that race, right? So I don't know if there's more than one. I don't know. But at the root level, I think it's real. I think there is things of some sort. I don't think it's demons. I think a lot of people, like Christians especially, like that's the paradigm they see things through, and I understand that. I think it's something else. I think it's just something else.
I mean, when it comes to like what we all mean, yeah, you're right. There is a significant difference of how we define these things, but in my opinion, I'm pretty sure they're talking about the same things, like demonic entities could just as well be alien. I think the key word is not extraterrestrial, is extra dimensional. Right? That's what people have to start to consider more. It's not just like visitors from it, because that's the lamest thing. It's like people are like, oh, if they're advanced enough to travel, you know, millions of light years, like thousands of light years, millions of light years, but you're telling me they're not advanced enough to avoid crash landing on the planet. It's like, and I'm like, that's still limited to the way you could like consider it. Like, what if it's just like what if the stuff that crashes here? What if the things that we recover, what if those things aren't even the full extent of these entities? Like, what if those are just shadows projected onto like 3-dimensional space while they exist in like 5-dimensional space or 4-dimensional space? Yeah. I mean, we have to kind of expand our imagination on this. Now, I think there is a possibility they could be nuts and bolts things from outer space. If they did crash, they didn't crash on fucking accident. They did it on purpose. They didn't crash. They're like, here, have some shit. Lottery. You guys just won the lottery. Here, have some shit. It could be that. It could be that if somebody blinks in from another dimension, right? Because you see these, I don't know if you've seen some of these videos that used to go around of these things just blinking out of existence. They don't even shoot off sometimes. Yeah. And there are people that describe that, of things shooting off really fast, just out of nowhere, right? Like they go in like zigzags, like stuff that you can't do in a plane. But there's also videos I've seen of things just suddenly, it's like they weren't there. They just kind of blink out. It's like they fold into a sheet that's, you know, like the sheet's not there, but the sheet's there because they just folded into it. They haven't moved, they're gone. You know? Yes. And I think that it's likely that is so when it comes in, it's not like they crashed, it's that they appeared in the wrong place or something, like there's a miscalculation or whatever. That's another possibility, right? Like, or something about the atmosphere, like they didn't know, you know, and it like something happened with their ship, whatever, and it just falls out of the sky or whatever. Who knows?
those are just things I can think of.
There's also we figured out how to shoot them down, maybe by accident, with like nuclear testing, nuclear explosions and stuff like that.
Totally. Because apparently, that's another thing. I think that whoever said this was onto something. Is that if they didn't come before and they haven't already been here all the time, then it was definitely something to do with the nukes. It sent a ripple. It freaked them out. They're like, oh no, not this again. And they come because they're like, dude, people are doing that again. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that it ripples out into like subspace, dude. And like, they've got whatever kinds of instruments that pick that stuff up. And they're like, oh no, space-time continuum, bro. Stuff like that. And they got to go check it out. Like, no, like, we can't let this happen. And so they're shutting them off. Have you heard about that? Like nukes just apparently they don't work after they come. They come and like shoot a little beam at them, and there's no nuke anymore.
Yeah, they become like malfunctioned, or like the firing mechanisms become completely fried or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's that, and also, the possibility that we did end up learning how to use like different weapons to actually like disrupt their ships, to be able to like shoot them down. But as far as that, instantaneous travel, like, yeah, I really do think it might be like because like, I'm all about like frequencies and everybody like maintaining their own specific frequency and whatever. I mean, yeah. What if your frequency is kind of like your coordinate in time space? Like, what if like you standing in any point in space is going to vibrate at a very specific frequency? Like, Colin sitting in his truck is vibrating at one frequency, whereas Colin standing outside of the truck is vibrating at a different frequency. And if you could like shift your frequency from Colin A to Colin B, instead of having to like go through the motion of like opening your truck door and stepping outside and standing, like, you just instantaneously get there,
Or you go somewhere else. You just slip under and wake up in a place where root beer is in the air and mushrooms or trees.
Well, that would be very.
You never know.
That would be a malfunction. But realistically, like, we can't look at it as if like us physically now, as if we can go there, like as if we can go to that higher dimension. I think the way to access that isn't to think like, oh, we can go there into that higher place where where like they're casting shadows down to 3D. I think it's more like we're already there. We just don't fucking know it. It's just more of a process of reconnecting with that aspect of ourself that we are purposely disconnected from consciously, as long as we're incarnated in this meat suit, and born into this. Are
you saying there's like layers to our existence? Like we're almost like we're broadcasting on levels we don't see, that we're not aware of, maybe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's. I mean, we could easily conceive of like a VR game that we just forget we're playing, right? Like, I mean, wouldn't you play that? Like, if you could play this VR game where you jack into it, you forget you're playing a game, and within 8 minutes you could live out 80 years. Like, would you play that game?
I think I would. I think I would definitely have a safe word.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that before going into that, I better know that it's not going to suck. Not too much anyway. But yeah, I feel I'd probably go for a ride.
Exactly. So it's not hard to imagine, like, first of all, why, just for the sake of entertainment or whatever, but also it's like the value in simulation and all that stuff. But yeah,
totally.
So to harness the abilities of like the player, the person who's one meta layer up from you, like, you have to it's a process of, I guess, remembering. And like faith, you definitely need faith, because within the VR game, you got to assume there's no like outright functions that tell you specifically you're in a VR game. Like, you just have to remember and have faith that you're in the VR game, or you just have to have this like knowing or gnosis.
Yeah, I think everybody instinctively kind of has. It's interesting you say that. What it makes me think of is how, I guess they call it the God gene, right?
Yeah.
And humans, us, whatever we are hardwired to believe in something,
The worship
right?
team.
Right. And so maybe with what you're saying with the VR analogy is like a safeguard that's baked into the game where we kind of know there's something beyond it, but we don't have proof because I'd ruin the game. Right?
Yes.
So, but we instinctively know it, but we don't intellectually know it.
Yes, because all of our intellectual fiber is literally built up off of like contingent societal roles, like ego stuff, which is
it's within the rules of the game.
Yeah, it's the true self, the true higher self is stuff that lives on long after your body and memories and mind die. It's not even a matter of remembering or thinking or it's just knowing. You're pure knowing. And I think that's how that's why
spirit.
Spirit basically. When your
spirit's eternal.
Yeah, pretty much. It's really funny, it's two really fun aspects of all of this for me. It's like the internal aspect, which is discovering things about myself, and like the more I embrace my spiritual self, my spirit body, like just the better everything gets out, like the better everything turns out in my life, like my emotional processing, my thought patterns, fixing my habits, all that shit becomes way easier when I believe in a spirit. That's the inner. But then there's also the external, where I contend with other people's views about life and reality and themselves and who they are and what they are. And it's just funny, how I don't ever want to say oh, they either get it or they don't. But it really is kind of like you maybe have to go through something, or I don't know. But then there's also it's also tragic when you have people that were, say, born or raised religious in the wrong way. And they're just they get pushed to the other end of the spectrum, and it's fuck, man. Because I'm the opposite, no one ever pushed me or forced religion on me. I kind of just came into the concept of spirituality and connection with the supreme being on my own.
Me and you are definitely I can relate with that. I didn't grow up in a religious family, and we didn't go to church. Right. And the church that my mom ended up going to was not a religious church. It was everybody can believe whatever they want to believe. We're not going to tell you anything, church. Right. So there was never any of that guidance or anything to tie me into a certain philosophy. Right. Of course, I was born and raised in Utah, and that's Zion for the Mormons. Right. So I'm surrounded by Christianity of all sorts, no matter what. It's just where I live. So I'm going to have, from living in the Western world, I'm going to have that as kind of a background to everything. So that's what I ended up gravitating towards. But I'm interested in everything, right? I was just listening to the Quran 2 months ago. You know what I'm saying? I don't tie myself into anything. I just happen to gravitate towards Christianity. But I had to kind of find that for myself. Nobody was going to tell me to do that.
Well, yeah, the truth is, for a long time, our civilization put a lot of stake and value, in my opinion, misplaced value, in this idea of being a generalist. But I think, in being a specialist. But I don't know. I don't think being a specialist is that great. I think it's better to be a generalist, especially nowadays. But as far as what you were saying,
we got the internet. We have so much information.
Yeah, exactly.
To tie ourselves into any one viewpoint is kind of, without looking at anything outside of it, is kind of sad to me, but that's just the way I've lived. So
yeah, no,
not saying it's wrong, for anybody out there. If you've got your thing, it's your thing. You love your thing, dude, do your thing. But I think broadening your horizons, it's only scary at first.
Yeah, I come from an Asian family, which were probably primarily Buddhist, but somewhere, I think in my great grandmother's generation, they converted to Christian, Presbyterian Christian.
Okay.
And it's my namesake. My name is literally Christopher. It's a Christian ass name. So there was definitely always Christian undertones with my family, within my family, but being Asian, it's not it's like you'll find a lot of like Asian Christians with a lot of Buddhist family members. So I guess, yeah, like I never felt tied into anything really. And plus, like, I don't know, Christianity never really appealed to me that much. But what does appeal to me now is like, you know, every religion with like Islam, Christianity, Judaism, they all have these rules, right? Like some say, oh, just never drink. Others say don't have premarital sex. Others say, you know, they all have their set of life rules, like do's and don'ts. And I don't think either one is like explicitly correct in all ways. But the thing is, like, if you were to follow any one of them, they would pretty much take you to the same place, right?
I think that I would like to think so. I think that we kind of get kind of like chauvinistic about our religions, and that like mine is the right way, yours is the wrong way. Like we have an entire world.
Yeah. I mean, that aside, like just literally, like imagine like they were all valuable for their own sake, and if everyone devoutly followed each path, like they would end up at the same place, which is, I think, is what the Buddhists call like enlightenment.
Right, and that's what I'd like to think. You know, there's definitely Christians that would disagree because, you know, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
and I have a tendency towards that, but I also have a lot more experience with a lot more things than to just say that that's definitely the way it has to be. Like I started as an atheist, then went to agnostic, and I still have that agnostic kind of like grounding of I don't know, you don't know, you don't know, I don't know. You know, I think I know. I think I have an idea, but I know I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so what I'm trying to say is that I think since there's so many different religions and spiritualities throughout the world, to say that every other one of them but yours didn't receive some form of revelation or inspiration, I think that's I don't know, man. It's kind of a lame way to look at things. You know, there's at least something to stuff. That's the way I look at it. I mean, it enriches lives, and it provides a framework, and people are touched by it, moves them, right? So there can't be nothing to other religions just because it's not Christianity. You know, like it's still valuable.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. And in my case, I guess it's more like me having like it was a self-discovery thing that I kind of externalized over like a little bit after it happened, because it was me noticing massive shifts in my life experience. You know, it was like purely phenomenological for me, where I started like realizing things or coming to certain understandings. Like, you know how he said like, what we don't know if it's true or not, but we do see like tangible benefits when a person does believe in a thing and live accordingly, right?
Totally, 100%.
Yeah. So once I started noticing that, that's what got me interested, and that's what I focus on. Like, I don't really focus on the theology. I wanted to like look at it as where I look for the practices that they're all like saying, and I want to like test them out on myself, just to be like, you know, kind of an example. It's like, hey, by the way, I tried this, and here were the results. You know, and I mean, other people.
Right. This worked.
Results. Yeah. Yeah.
And when it works, it works. And you do kind of have a gnosis of that. It's a deeper knowing. You know, I'm not a Gnostic or anything, but I think gnosis is real. It's a form of knowledge that you feel it in your bones, right? You just know things sometimes when you see that you're having greater and greater results based off of the life you're living, the way that you're choosing to interact. You know that that's happening. You're seeing it. And what trips me out is I'm not a solipsist, okay? But like, I just want to say that meeting people like you at the time that I did, I've had this experience throughout my life where like I keep on running into people throughout my life that are going through a lot of the same things as I am, as I'm going through. There's been large portions of time where that doesn't happen, but it repeatedly happens. Like meeting you and the way that we talk, we jive. I always know what you're talking about, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I might have slight like variations in my perspective or whatever, but what I'm saying is it's almost dead on, and it's kind of wild. It kind of makes me sometimes like, am I the only person? Like, why does this keep on happening? Like, why is everybody I meet going through what I'm going through? Like, there's no chance. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's what I think.
No.
But it freaks me out sometimes.
You're basically getting taken aback by the synchronicities that happening, and you're not crazy because I noticed them too. But the way I've interpreted it was since my quote unquote spiritual awakening last year, I was like warned. Basically, I was like given plenty of notice that once you come to this understanding and you accept this nature about reality, or you accept this framework, you accept this spiritual reality, this magical reality, you shift your frequency. And when you vibrate at a kind of frequency, you're going to naturally magnetize people who are on a similar frequency. It made so much sense to me when I heard that. Like, I didn't even bother really speculating, really analyzing that fact. I was just like, yeah, that makes sense. It's like a radio. You turn to a specific station, you're going to hear that music, you're going to hear that shit. So I kind of expected it. I mean, I didn't expect it to be so potent and so poignant, getting down with Andreas and stuff, which kind of added fuel to this little nagging belief in the back of my head, like a global spiritual awakening is happening, especially with the internet and stuff. And it's almost like just like more gasoline on the fire, and eventually like more people. Yeah.
To me, at this point, it's undeniable that it's happening. Like, whatever's going on, it's happening, and it's happening right now.
I mean, people going through this sort of thing, that's why they're going out and looking for more people to talk to, is because they have the same feeling. They're like, I don't know, I feel like this is kind of like becoming a thing for everyone now. And I do it purposely. Like, as soon as it happened to me, I just started like signaling hard body on my own Facebook. I just started like posting all this shit about align yourself in mind. I lost some friends. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I alienated quite a few bunch of people, and I just did not care, because I knew, I was like, of course this is going to happen. Of course, if I embody this, of course, if I signal this, some people are really not going to like it, because either A, they stand for something completely different, or B, like, they're not there yet, and this could really
or
hurt.
It's straight up, you're right, it just straight up freaks them out. They don't get it because it's not where they're at, right? I forgot what I was going to say. Go on. I forgot. It was cool, but I can't remember.
No, and I mean, I never was a big fan of the corny new age terminology, like of soul families and shit, but I understood the concept, because like, I know what it's like to be down with music scenes, or like art scenes, or like, like video game. I get it. It's like people share an interest, they congregate. But when it comes to this particular interest, it's like, there is no bigger game than this. This is like the game of games. This is literally the meta game of all reality. Like,
for real. And I used to hear about it, like, oh yeah, the soul family is in the Great Awakening and stuff like that. And at first I just wanted to believe it.
Yeah.
I was like, that would be really great. So I just kind of like let myself believe it. Like, okay, like, it makes me happier to consider this, it'd be neat and all that. But like I said, at this point, I think it's totally undeniable. Like, whatever's going on is serious, and it's happening for a lot more people every day. Whatever it is, it's happening. I just, if you don't agree, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's going down. Whatever it is, it's going down, dude. We're living at I know everybody's like, oh, we're so like, oh, we think that we're special. Everybody thinks they're special in every generation. No, this time it is, dude. This time something's up. They ain't got the internet before. They didn't have global connection. They didn't have like partial hive minds, dude. Like,
telepathy.
that wasn't happening before. It's happening now, dude. We're a global village, bro. Like, something's happening.
Yeah, and it's getting to a point where, I mean, this is where it gets messy, right? This is when we talk about the whole like 5D Earth split, where, like we said, yes, it is happening, and it's happening at a much faster rate. But there's also this knowing that not everyone's going to shift. Like, not everyone is going to break out in their lifetime. Like, some people are really just gonna like die, if anything.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, I hope they go somewhere, dude, somewhere cool, where they can get down.
There has been there has been an influx of random deaths recently, right?
Has there really?
Well, aside from a global pandemic.
Oh yeah, people are putting it down onto that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. that would be a trip if it was something else. If it's just a symptom of what's going on, you know?
Yeah. Also wars and all that shit.
And rumors of war. Just joking.
But yeah, so the whole 5D Earth split, where some people are just not going to accept that magical reality, and I get it. That's the sad part. Like, I can't even just look at them and say, "Oh, they're crazy." Like, I can't. I'm not that ignorant, you know. Like, I get it. I get why you would have resistance to this. Like, remember, like when I always say, like, "Oh, everyone's just the same soul living out different lifetimes in different bodies," and I say, I completely expect like really smart people to just reject this idea, like flat out. Like, I completely understand why. I get why you wouldn't like that. I understand why you'd be like, no, that's not fucking true. Because think about all like,
yeah, I mean, it totally sounds ridiculous to somebody that's not in that like, what is it, right brain or whatever, like,
yeah.
Or is it left brain? Left brain's the cool one, right? The groovy one?
No, right brain's groovy, left brain's smart, and I don't know. Yeah, it's like lizard.
Okay, so
lizard brain.
They're lefties. They're a bunch of lefties, right? And so if you're a lefty, you're going to be like, no, actually, you know, the knowledge is in the mind, and the mind is creating it because of the brain and the molecules, and they have synapses, and that's where it happens. Like, like, I get it, dude. Like, I get it. And I could totally see why somebody would see it that way. It probably is that way. Just go ahead, you know, whatever.
Also, what's funny is like, it's so, in my personal case, it's so fucking ironic that like I could easily see myself as a living example of like God's playing cosmic twisted jokes. Like, cause I was a straight up like materialist, you know, I was all about like, just, I don't know, like I was all materialism. I didn't believe in God. Money. I guess like money, competence, and fucking, you know, just like, you know, not like understanding the world is a bad, cruel place, and you have to like really fight and excel to like make good things happen. Otherwise, you're doomed for shit. Like, the world is just inherently a bad place and all that shit. I was still an optimist, but I was like a cynical optimist. But then, like, you know, that missing piece felt like my heart was finally aligned, and I was like, oh wow, I was so fucking wrong. Because like, you know, it was serious. You know, like I realized like, and then other people in my life, right? Like people, like there must have been people who like, I don't know, must have been infuriated with this dynamic. It's hard to explain, and I know it sounds presumptuous, but like, imagine someone in your life who is like this dick-headed materialist, and then out of nowhere, like they start like reaching like, you know, a spiritual awakening, and they start feeling more whole, and they start like encouraging people to start journaling. Like, I get it. Like that would that would piss me the fuck off. But, you know, I look at the perspective of the gods, and I'm like, yeah, they would do some fucked up, ironic shit. They would use a dickhead asshole like me as a channel, because who the fuck's gonna listen to me, right? But that's like, you know, like, it's like, who the fuck would listen to my ass about spirituality? So, like, I can't just preach about it. I have to live it.
They'll listen to you more than me, bro. At least you're Asian, dude. You've got, like, that mystical vibe, you know, that you automatically have from being Asian. People just kind of... Like, if you're like straight up like Native American, right, or American Indian, whatever is the cool way to call them, right, or if you're Asian, like, those are the two pretty much. People are like,
Nah, first of all, being an Asian guy is like really, it can be really tough sometimes in America. Only like, you know, well, actually everywhere. I don't know. It's tough everywhere for everyone, but in particular, it's annoying when it's like, you know, when I'm hanging around a lot of like white guy friends, like I can't even talk about it because it's like really uncomfortable to point out, and they can't even say anything about it because it must be uncomfortable for them too. But it's like,
what is it? I want to know. I want to hear it.
All right, so like, I feel like sometimes as an Asian guy hanging around my white friends, it feels like when I'm just not being a submissive, like little passive bitch, I feel like the people I'm around sometimes feel like that alone is me trying to mog them. You know, it's like, I feel like they get the impression that I'm mogging them. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I don't even care about being superior. I just don't want anyone to walk all over me, you know, like, because I know if it was like, I don't know, maybe if I was a different race, they wouldn't perceive me that way. But I'm just like, dude, I didn't say I was better than you. I'm just saying, like, fuck off. And that's it. And they take like such offense to that. I'm like, what? You never been told that before by one of your dudes? Like, come on.
Right. And I think there's definitely dynamics that come into play with like race and stuff like that. But there also is that just like universally for people that once you start coming into your own power. Other people don't like that because they're used to getting what they want from you, right? It's just they have a vibe. You're the go-to for whatever it is, and now you're not the go-to, or you're not right now. And it's weird. It's like I thought that you were like Mr. Nicey Nice, right? Because me growing up, I started out Mr. Nicey Nice, right? And as time went on, not as much. And so I kind of had a little bit of that experience, perhaps. But with the racial overtones, I'm sure it's like on another level sometimes.
So you know what that taught me? What that really taught me was that life doesn't reward you for being Mr. Meanie or Mr. Nicey Nice. Life rewards you just simply for being consistent. If you're going to be a Mr. Dickhead, be consistent about it. You know, like you got to be able to sustain that consistently. If you're going to be Mr. Nicey Nice, be consistent about it. You know, like, and this goes back to how saying like it's never a single state that has all the power. It's a pattern. It's the movement between states and understanding like the flow and like setting a pattern of moving from point A to point B to point C, then back to point A. That's what gives you the power. So yeah, what are you saying?
I'm trying to conceptualize what you're saying.
All right, so like patterns, we were talking about it before, how like patterns are really the thing that determines everything. You can't, and patterns are intangible. You can't just hold a pattern in your hand. You can't just like smell it. You can't taste it, but you know they exist because like day and night cycles function in a pattern. We eat and shit.
Okay.
In like a pattern. Like we know patterns exist. They're not actual things that exist in this dimension. We're just conscious of it, right?
Yeah, totally. So like if you step into a certain pattern, it kind of
it
sounds to me like
or the faults of it. Yeah.
Right. So and you're going to like you're going to see the results of that pattern as you're in it. Yes. And so if you're not consistent with it, then you're not going to get the right effects because you're all over the place. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes. And think back on rituals and ceremonies and sacrifices. Like these were patterns, they're ritualistic because they were repeated. And if they're repeated, that makes it a pattern. So, I mean, because they were repeated for a reason, and the reasons were brought up by a need, and the need presents itself through nature, and nature kind of functions in cycles and patterns or spirals. So yeah, it's like it really is like patterns are the metaphor, and that's the secular way to describe it. Because like, I mean, we were just talking to Seth how he was like, like if you put it in all this religious like terminology, and I'm like, yeah, well, you don't have to call it spirits and demons. You could just call it patterns, positive patterns and negative patterns. But even if you do put it in a secular way, like you can't downplay the importance of them or the power of them. Like they for all intents and purposes, patterns are more powerful than us. Just because we conceptualize them doesn't mean we're stronger than them. Patterns are definitely bigger than us.
Yeah, I didn't get what he was like. I was trying to explain to him, and I know that not everybody's going to understand what we're saying because this is like, went back to an earlier conversation today where we're talking to this guy, and he's very like materialistic, like everything's the brain. I was kind of making fun of that idea earlier, and I was trying to tell him, like, bro, like, what does it matter whether or not you see things as good and evil, angels and demons, or if you see things as like nuts and bolts, cause and effect, or whatever, if recognizing the evil in your life, whether or not it's something that's bad because it's just negative for you, or if it's something that you conceptualize it as actual like evil forces, if you choose to excise that from your life, what does it matter the way that you conceptualize it, the way that you put it together, the way that you explain it to yourself? If the effects come that your life has changed and it's better because you've gotten rid of those negative things, then who cares if you're coming at it from an atheistic perspective, if you're coming at it from a Hindu perspective, a Christian perspective, a theistic perspective, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well,
I think that
It's because the secular minded people, like, they can't respect that as an actual concept to be taken seriously for other people, because they're like, I can't scale that. Like, if you're gonna tell me like, oh, I am currently the best, like, on the road to be the best version of Colin I could possibly ever humanly be, you can't scale that, outwards,
Right, but like, if you can scale it by seeing what Colin's up to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
not me,
I agree
but
with
just
that. Because that takes
whoever
time.
guy you're seeing, and like, oh, that guy is clearly like consistently having good experiences or whatever. He's helping old ladies across streets. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like you see that, and you see that, like, it doesn't matter what's going on in their mind. Like, you can have an IQ of 80 and be a really great person. You don't know why you are. You just, like, I am because it feels good. Like, it doesn't matter. That's what I was trying to say to that dude.
Okay. Yeah. No, I get it. And my thing is, like, I do sympathize with the criticisms against, like, old religious orders. Like, I get it, they don't like they just don't like that ladder. Like, they don't like that specific version of the ladder.
Totally. And I had to get beyond that for my own personal thing, is that, like, obviously, like I said earlier, I have a thing for the Christianity. I love the Jesus. Like, I love the Jesus. There's no person in history that I've ever read about that can make me tear up like reading about the things that dude did and said.
Can I be honest with you?
Sure.
I'm so sick of the Jesus. Not because, like, I'm offended by it or because of anyone else. It's just this fucking name I had to live with. Like, I know it's not a big deal. Like, what a name is a name, but still, like, that's something, like, unless I plan to legally fucking change it, which will be uncomfortable in and of itself. Like, I have to.
Oh, you mean Christopher?
Yeah, like, I have to live with Christ literally for my whole entire life as long as I carry the name.
Damn, that's heavy.
That's what I'm saying. And the name literally means one who bears Christ. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, really? Okay, like. Thanks.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
that's kind of fucked up. Yeah, when you put it that way, that'd be a head job, bro. Like, and especially if you're even carrying it at all a little bit, And I'm not even. I'm sure there's people out there that their name's Chris, they never given it a thought. But if you're like, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, I've had times totally different because it's not Jesus, and that's heavy. But just my name is Colin Gray Vesely. Right? And so Gray has so many things to it. And then Vesely means happy, but it's not just happy, it's blissful. Right? And I've had times where, like, my namesake has, like, screwed with my head, man. And I kind of had to grow into it and, like, enjoy Gray, because I hated it when I was a kid. I was like, that's ugly, dude. That's a gross color. It's, like, scary. There's, like, it's gray. Like, that's paranoid. Like, you don't know what's going on with Gray. It might be good, might be bad. I don't know. It's gray. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of freaked me out, bro.
All right, so if you really want to get into some, I mean, because it's also dependent on what language, but I think, like.
Oh, sorry, really quick. I just want to say real quick, just to add to it, is that, like, also I was a middle child. My favorite color was green. Green is in the middle of the color spectrum. I'm a middle child. You know what I'm saying? There was all of these things that kept on being like, gray.
Yeah. I'm just saying. All right, that's a valid example. And what I'm saying is, like, so we know words have power. So what if we view words as, well, words are technically symbols attached to, like, certain, like, noises and sounds and combinations of noises and, like, amalgamations of sounds. Words as symbols might be alive, or letters as symbols might be alive. Same with numbers, like, and if they are alive, there's a chance they may be more alive than us.
Just think about a Nokian, bro. Wonder what that'd be like. You're, like, speaking spells into the world, dude. Like God spells just by talking, And then we're, like, somewhere removed from that, if that's even a thing, if that even exists, like, if that concept exists, like we're like, and when you're writing, you're spelling, right?
Yeah.
So there is that aspect to things that is interesting. That's what we call it, spelling.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's so insane how, like, back just a few years ago, I would think I was, like, wackadoodles, for, like, Like, why would I give a shit about any of this? But then it's like the minute you get comfortable in life, like you get any sort of stability, and you give your that temporary stillness, still mind, the internet, and it's like everyone goes to the same place. It's like, what's the meaning of life? You know, like, or it's like the existential threat happens. It's like, well, if we know that like reptilians are secretly controlling our souls and enslaving us, what the fuck are we supposed to do about it? And the same answer always pops up: raise your consciousness. And then you're like, raising consciousness? What the fuck is that? Let me Google that. And then that's when you start the trip. Like, that's when you blast off.
Totally. And you know what I like to think about the whole like reptilian thing is that I'm not scared, because if it's true, why did they leave us around, dude? What do they need from us?
Well, I could tell you exactly what they need from us. Humans, I think, are way more powerful than we're given credit for. Like, I think
we're probably more powerful than they are, bro.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
why can't they just end us, dude? Like, what do they need? What do they need from us, bro? Like, that tells me a lot.
Think about it. Like, if you take a human, right, as we are now, we're like at this crazy crossroads of development. We could either be primed for like synthesis with like a synthetic living being like machine AI and just fuse that with us, or we could be primed for like CRISPR genetic modification, or we could be primed to be like these ultrasonic Vedic monks, like super soldiers or whatever. Like it like harvesting, like we are at the peak if you viewed us as a crop, we are at like prime harvest, you know, like we are at this as a product, like we would be so good,
bro. It's just about time for the reaping, dude. Like, it's just, we're about there. We're ripe, whatever. And just imagine all of those things you just mentioned. Imagine a combination of all of those.
Well, that's why.
What would that look like?
That's why some of us would be sold off to the machine aliens. Some of us would be sold off to the reptilians for food. Some of us, you know, adrenochrome and stuff. Some of us would be sold off to like fucking the interdimensional fucking entities to teach us to become like them. Some of us would be sold off, I don't know, to the Greys. This is all speculation, but yeah, I could think of plenty of uses for humans and plenty of reasons to cultivate us and to, like cattle, you know?
Yeah, well, my opinion is that, you know, I was just messing around with this the other day, but if I had to speculate, that humans, something about the way that we interact emotionally and spiritually with the world it's just not the same as whatever these things are. Whatever it is that's trying to, like, you know, wish that they could have our number, bro, or eat us for lunch. They can't for whatever reason. Otherwise they would have. And I don't know how to put it. I think that there's some ability that we have that they need, or that they are scared of, or both.
I really think it's manifestation. I think that's the thing that humans are really. I think humans are really. We just don't know it yet. Like we don't understand,
right?
Or we forgot it, or we forgot it. You know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're dead on with what I'm thinking. Is there's some way that we interact with things that we just might, you know, and there's always that aspect of things where it's like, just don't think you're special, bro. Like, the universe is a big place, but I don't know. It's definitely a special time. I'll put it that way. That's all I know for sure.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So, like, one of the immediate mutations that I could think of that's like that would be really freaky within the next like 20,000 years, maybe 50,000 years or so, is that the human larynx could develop to a point where we could literally use our vocal emissions to manipulate matter, like the atomic structure of things. Basically be able to like conjure shit out of thin air, literally using our voice. Everything from like material to maybe even embryos, you know?
You ever heard of the machine elves?
No. Oh wait, when you take DMT and go to the other, break through to that dimension, and yeah.
So supposedly, according to Terrence McKenna, when he would meet these machine elves, what he said is that they were trying to teach him something on that level of reality, wherever it is that you go when you see these things, and they're always there ready to greet him, supposedly, like apparently, right? And what he said that I can remember is that there's like something about the way that they spoke was bringing things into being. And it was like they were trying to teach him how to use that form of language. And he had this big thing about words, and that like words, like you were saying earlier, like words like
That's
create,
symbols.
they have power, they're symbols, they have power, like the world is made out of words. There's some sort of power in words. And so these machine elves were trying to teach him a new form of language or communication that was literally like making shapes appear in front of their mouth as soon as they said stuff. Like, so that was a pretty cool idea. I don't know if it's real, but it sounds cool.
I mean, okay, so here's what I do know. Here's what I do think works, like affirmations. You know, like I do think like spoken vocal affirmations really do. This is just immediate. This has nothing to do with like crazy sci-fi or futuristic shit. Like
no, but it could be a scaled down version of whatever this is, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it might be more profound because affirmations don't work as like simply or as crudely as I say sound and materials and shapes form in front of me. It's like the whole entire fabric of reality bends to my affirmation, like my word, like what I'm saying is happening, you know?
Right, like dominoes start falling in front of you, kind of.
Exactly, and that could be more profound than simply conjuring shit by speaking it, you know?
Definitely.
And if you think about it, like this is all Star Wars shit too. It's like Darth Plagueis the Wise is the one who learned how to create life using the Force.
Right, isn't he the one that taught him how to resurrect people?
Or Darth Plagueis the Wise taught Palpatine how to create life, and Palpatine manifested using the Force Anakin Skywalker.
Huh.
I mean,
break into that a little bit. So what do you mean by he created Anakin Skywalker?
Okay, so the whole story goes, Palpatine was telling Anakin this whole story of the Sith Lord named Darth Plagueis the Wise. And
right.
His whole thing was trying to avoid death. Like he figured out, he got so deep into like all the dark arts of the Force and light side, like everything. He was like so complete in knowledge of the Force that he learned how to prolong his life for centuries, you know, like years and years and years, for millennia, like just basically not die. And eventually, like after, I'm guessing like maybe he got lonely or maybe it was just Sith doctrine, but he eventually took on an apprentice, and the apprentice gained his trust and taught him everything he knew, including how to create life, how to manifest life into the universe.
So not only extend life, but create it.
Yes. And the apprentice slew Darth Plagueis the Wise. And the apprentice was the one who inherited the knowledge and kept it all to himself. And that apprentice was Darth Sidious.
Right. Okay. This is refreshing my memory.
And Darth Sidious was Palpatine. So Palpatine was basically subtly admitting that he was the one who manifested Anakin into existence.
Shit, I never heard that part of it.
Well, I mean, if it was,
that's cool.
Wasn't it weird how Anakin was like? I mean, Qui-Gon Jinn asked Anakin's mother, like,
"Oh yeah," he was like, "Bro, he didn't have a dad and shit."
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's dope.
Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about.
I love that.
Like Star Wars is literally trying to like hijack the whole like metaphysical narrative, like the metaphysical mythology for humanity.
Okay, so I got to ask you then. Sorry to break you up, but I got it. This is so exciting to me. What do you think about Darth Jar Jar? And where does he come into? Where does he fit into this puzzle, bro? Like,
I don't know anything about Darth Jar Jar.
You don't know anything about Darth Jar Jar, bro? It's the coolest thing in the world.
I know he was like there was a theory that he was the bad guy the whole time, orchestrating everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything he did, like, because suddenly he does a force jump out of nowhere in the first movie, dude, into the water, and it's like. Where'd that come from? And you just kind of assume you assume that it was a Gungan thing, like they could just jump really high or whatever, but it's like, no, that was a force jump. That's the way that they would shoot a force jump, okay? Like the way that the cinematography of it, or whatever you want to call it, that's a force jump, bro. And it's just out of nowhere, he just does that. And like, he's just there at all of the key moments. He's this bumbling fool. He can't do anything. He's incompetent. Why is he even there? What do they want him for? Why is he all of a sudden some sort of like delegate or official? Like, how did he get there? What's he doing?
No idea. But I definitely stopped liking Star Wars. Like, I was like,
oh yeah,
yeah, I completely dropped it after the new movies. I was like, nah, I'm done with this for sure. It was too much.
You know what? I actually enjoyed the way it wrapped up, because seeing what it was the all of the civilians in their ragtag ships all flying this massive fleet, bro. This massive fleet flying towards fucking Sidious, of just people from all corners of the galaxy, dude. They grew their balls, and that was so satisfying to see in cinema. All of the people just getting their shit together. That was worth it for, like, there was so much stupid shit in those movies. Okay, like, don't get me wrong, but that image will forever live in my heart, bro. I loved it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Star Wars is definitely a highly spiritual series.
So they got a lot of stuff wrong, but they got that right with me, man. I liked that. But I was disappointed they didn't have like a silhouette of Jar Jar at the end somewhere, you know? Like, I was so convinced that was the truth, bro. And like, I hope they come back around to it, because there's something going on with that Gungan dude. Like, he's not as dumb as he acts, dude. He's force jumping. Like, where'd that come from?
I mean, the whole idea of like the Force and magic is really, it's not any different than a lot of stuff, like, you know, concerning all the Hindu yogic magic and all the alchemy and alchemical magic and stuff like that, and the ancient alchemy, like from the Egyptians, and some of the stuff they were able to do.
You know, it's one of my favorite video games ever.
What?
Golden Sun. It was an RPG game on the Game Boy Advance. Okay? And this game was about adepts. They were magicians or whatever, right? And they were called adepts. And so the deal with that game, and like, you go to Lemuria in the second game, dude. It's 2 games, and like, all of a sudden you're in Lemuria and you're talking to this fucking immortal guy that's got like this draft that's keeping him alive, dude. And bro, it went hard for a little kid game, dude. It was amazing. So the deal with Golden Sun is that magic took over the world. Like, magic's a part of the world in Golden Sun.
Makes sense.
And so they have these lighthouses that contain the elements on all corners of the planet. And the lighthouses, they project the magic, right? That comes out of the earth. It's just a part of the earth. And so the magic, they sealed it away because shit got bad in Lemuria in the game, okay? And they were at the heart of it all. And things got bad because magic, everybody's walking gods. And just think, like, so magic's starting to seep back into the world. So these adepts in the game, it's just this guy, Isaac, at the beginning, and his friends. And they're starting to, like, awaken in their powers. And they're hearing it. There's, like, the shit goes down with, like, the mountain they live on. They live on this spiritual mountain. And they talk to this eyeball that's telling them, like, shit's about to jump off. It was wild, bro. Like, and so what they have to do is go and somebody's trying to light the lighthouses. And they're like, oh, no, we can't do that, bro. Like, or something, you know? And so it turns out, I don't want to ruin it for anybody that wants to play it, though. Like, it's so cool.
Okay, first of all, I mean, that game does sound awesome. It's just, I don't know. I do know one thing. I do know the Japanese are clearly schooled on like Book of Enoch type shit, like Nephilim type shit, like Hermetic tradition, alchemy, Gnosticism, Rosicrucianism. Like they're clearly schooled on this shit because they reference this shit so fucking much in like their anime, their video games, a lot of
like it's
shit.
nothing.
Yeah, yeah, they're really and they're like really good at it now. So the most, I guess, like the ideal, the easiest assumption is that it just happened to be the timing, right? The minute they started wanting to make media about magic or Western magic, they picked whatever resources they could find, and upon doing their research, they discovered, like, I don't know, Aleister Crowley type shit or whatever, and that's what the stuff they kind of ran with, and whatever was related to that, and maybe that just kind of stuck because it just worked, for how they depicted Western type magic, or like Dungeons and Dragons type depicted magic, or whatever the case may be. And maybe that's just the way they did it. But what is significant is that shit, all the shit they do still tracks. Like, even if they don't really take it seriously, like it's still serious shit. Like there's serious traditions based off that shit.
I'd like to think that it's just a part of their culture, and they're translating it over to Western magic, but it's already a part of their whole Shinto thing.
That's
and
what I'm saying.
It's deeply embedded.
Maybe it's because they have their own shit, like with Shinto shit, and then they come across this shit, and they're like, there's a lot of similar shit between their shit and our shit. Like, have you guys?
Right, that's talk, dude. That's a lot like this. Yeah.
Yeah. They probably understood it on a very like instinctive level. Like you're like, holy shit, like, because that's how I felt. That's how I felt when I like did even like a surface level thing on like each esoteric tradition from like different cultures. I'm like, they're all basically doing and saying the same shit.
So yeah, I mean, so the idea of this game, I'm just gonna say it, is that they can't shut off the lighthouses. It's killing the world. Like, they took away magic, and even though they took away magic, so this is going back to like Lemuria, Atlantis, like these are stories that we tell. I don't know where they come from, but they're like universal stories, okay? And so this game was like tapping into that, and it's saying that, yeah, like it sucks that everybody's like walking gods, and magic is very, with great power comes great responsibility, but you can't turn off the magic. It doesn't work that way. So they have to try and figure out how to come into the world that reawakens the magic, because if they don't turn back on the magic, if they don't turn back on the lighthouses, they don't have these elements flooding back into the earth, everything will die. And so they have to figure out how to, and I think there's some parallels to whatever's going on in our lives right now.
Well, didn't I say before, like, I mean, I totally understand like why, like the need for, at some point, maybe humanity doesn't even know, but I totally understand the need as to why humanity would have to take a step back from a spiritual or magical reality, or spiritual or magical ways of thinking, because it's exactly like how the game puts it, is if everyone is able to manifest hyper efficiently. I mean, this is what I said before. I asked in like an Exertus thing in one of his shows. I was like, if every human is given the ability to make themselves happy or sad using just their thoughts at will, like what kind of world would we live in? And that alone is a
right. I remember that.
That's a scary fucking world, and that is magical. That's a magical world, is it not? Because if you could control your emotions at will, you could basically control reality, in my opinion, because that's everything. Like everything starts out with a thought, and your thoughts are heavily influenced by your emotions. If anything, your thoughts are skewed towards your emotions. So if you control your emotions with your thoughts and vice versa, like that's a self-contained thing. And I think the only way to do that,
suddenly everything becomes possible, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not constrained by your whims anymore.
And I think the only way to reach that state is to have the third element, which is spirit. Because people who don't believe in souls cannot do this. People who don't believe in souls cannot access magical abilities. People who do not believe in a soul, I do not think they can willfully access paranormal abilities. Like they just can't do it.
What if they can on accident? You know what I'm saying?
I think they can only do it on accident, and I think if they keep doing it on accident, it will only destroy them as long as they deny their spiritual existence.
Okay. I could go for that because I can see if it's a part of us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That even if you don't believe in it, you could have a fluke.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it could destroy your fucking life if you don't take responsibility for it. That's why I think this shit is important. I don't think it's like some silly little hobby or interest or fringe theory. Like, I think if humanity doesn't come to grips with their spiritual nature, their magic, their inherent mana is going to go out of control. It's going to be sunk into like porn industries. It's going to be sunk into like insanely sociopathic YouTube channels. It's going to go into crazy shit, you know, like, and it's going to matter.
Totally. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, at least, because there are people that saw this day coming, and there's a reason that for the longest time the occult was occulted.
Yeah.
But about 100 years ago, at least one guy, whether or not he had like a team of a committee behind him that's like, okay, it's time to let it loose, let a bunch of stuff out and just flooded it into the world. Like, okay,
that's the Kabbalion.
You can have it now.
The Kabbalion came out around that time, and I think that's what that was. That was that major leak. It's like, well, you know, the three disciples or three initiates times has to release the Kabbalion by the thrice.
Exactly. There was the Kabbalion. There was the Emerald Tablets.
The Book of Enoch.
There was all of the Rudolf Steiner shit. Book of Enoch.
Yep.
That guy's really interesting. At first, I didn't understand a goddamn thing he said. Rudolf Steiner.
Yeah.
I didn't understand a thing he said, bro. And eventually, I started to kind of get what he was saying. I don't know when it happened, but it was like, what? Like, that kind of makes sense all of a sudden. And he's definitely coming from a different time. Like, you got to understand that this was like the 20s or whatever. And so a lot of the scientific aspect of things was not ironed out. But they really were close on some things. And the things that they weren't close on still was like conceptually sound to the point that like you could use it, if that makes sense. But a lot of it sounds kind of embarrassing to go back and listen to just because like we know so much more now. But it's surprising, though. It actually is surprising how much they did know back then in relation to now that they kind of shouldn't have. You see what I'm saying?
Well, that's how I feel about the Emerald Tablet and Kabbalion type shit. I mean, none of it sounds ridiculous to me, but it's so old and allegedly much older than the when Kabbalion was published. Like we're talking allegedly, like this is knowledge that goes back like for the ancient Egyptians. Like what we know as ancient Egyptians, like the ancient Egyptians for those Egyptians, you know?
Right. So then you got like the Egyptians, then you got like back to Kemet, and then you got back to Atlantis. And they say it comes from Atlantis. They say Thoth was an Atlantean.
Yeah.
And that he says in the Emerald Tablets, he tells you like, I found out how to transcend death. I can materialize into a body anytime I want. I'm going to sleep. Probably won't be back for a while. And, this is pretty much what he says in the Emerald Tablets, right?
Yeah, and he also lays down like a couple of lessons. Like for example, like everything has gender, meaning everything has a feminine and masculine nature. Everything has polarity, meaning you'll have an opposite of everything. Like everything in nature has an opposite of itself. There's also like everything is constantly moving. It's never going to stay positive. It's never going to stay negative. The only thing you can guarantee is the move. Like shit like that. You know, like it's.
I love the parallels between Hermeticism and Taoism.
Hells yeah.
It gets me off how the East and the West both seem to have like they fit like puzzle pieces into each other, bro. I love it. I love it.
Well, the idea was Thoth had disciples and the disciples spread across. And that's how he even got the basis for Christianity, for Buddhism, for all that shit. You know, he was the one, like after the great flood, after the great
dude, he was supposed to, I guess, like the first awakened immortal, like after his father or something like that, like,
or he was one of the survivors, like a refugee from Atlantis or Lemuria or something. Totally yeah, because those
I can't remember the story of his father, but there's something about Thoth's father. He was some special fucking Atlantis priest or something like that. I can't remember what his trip was. But he was cool too, but Thoth was the one that was like the guy.
Yeah, and it could have also all had to do with some kind of flood, and then there's the whole deal with the Anunnaki, which is pretty much the whole like creation thing.
Totally, dude. Atlantis has been so fascinating. Atlantis has actually been an obsession of mine since I was about 10 years old. I almost got choked up talking about it. It was such a beautiful idea to me when I was younger. I can't put my finger on why. It's like I knew it existed. And I know how crazy that sounds. But the first time I heard about it, I'm like, I was there, man. And you forget about this stuff. You're a little kid, you go on with life, right? But that was the initial experience. I haven't thought about it for a while.
No,
but
dude, remember when I told
the first time I ever heard the story of Atlantis, I was like, bro.
Dude, remember when I told you I had that like...
I've heard of that.
Remember when I told you I had that ridiculous acid trip like on 2 tabs and like I ended up like hospitalized and shit and seeing like insane shit?
Yeah, like running all over New York.
Yeah, so when I had those like images just flashing across inside my like mind, like just these images of like Egyptian architecture but futuristic, that felt like some Atlantean type shit, it's just what I was seeing. I was like seeing, it wasn't like high tech like computer circuitry. It was just like floating geometric shaped like things, like monuments and devices, and everyone was chilling, like wearing like these elegant robes laden with gold. And I was like, that, looking back in retrospect, I would imagine that to be something like Atlantis,
Sounds like it to me, man.
Yeah.
Wherever it was back then, dude, like it just still trips me out. Like I haven't thought about that for a long time, man. So just bear with me for a second. But I forgot in a way.
Wait, keep talking.
Just how profoundly.
Wait, keep talking. I'm gonna get ice. I'm still listening.
Totally. Just how profoundly that I really felt like I had heard about that before. And of course, like maybe I heard stories when I was a little kid and it like seeped in and I forgot about it or whatever, but it felt like profound somehow, and I sort of always been like, okay, we got to find Atlantis, dude. It was real. And I've had like a lot of different thoughts on it over time of what it means or what it is, or if it's exactly like it was described or if it's something else. I was thinking not too long ago that maybe the idea of Atlantis isn't exactly like we think, like it's not maybe in linear time, like it was exactly 10,000, 12,000 years ago or whatever people think, right? And that it sunk into the ocean. Like maybe it's a metaphor for what happened to it. Like maybe it's sinking into the ocean, or like maybe that means it went underground. Like Atlantis still exists. It's just like it's not on the surface anymore, right?
It could be that it still exists. It's just they learned how to get transdimensional.
Yeah, possibly. I think that
different civilizations have reported been able to do that.
Yeah, I think that there's been, like, hasn't there been several civilizations that just disappeared and nobody knows where they went?
I mean, hell, they're saying there's civilizations in Antarctica and they live underground, but I think it's a little more complicated than underground. I think it's underground on like by eye, but it really is transdimensional.
It's just somewhere else for sure, but it's here. Like they're close. That's what I think, bro, is that there could be aliens from out there, but there also could be aliens from in here. Not aliens at all, just another civilization for whatever reason. Maybe they're on another path, another level. Like they just don't try and fuck with us. Like I don't know what it is, but they're seeing these things going to the ocean. Where are they going? Like where are they going? Going somewhere.
Yeah, and there's also the exploits of Captain Bird. I think that was his name.
Oh, dude,
Admiral Bird.
I'd like to hear what people. I would like to hear what people think about Admiral Bird's like diary, dude. Because I mean, this guy was world renowned. And then all of a sudden, like, was the diary real? Do they think it was real? Do they think it's a fabrication? It's just a story? Like he was off his rocker? Like, what do they think about that? How do you explain that story?
How do you feel about fuck, I completely forgot what I was going to ask. Anyway, what were you saying? Oh yeah,
I was just saying, like,
sorry, I remembered. How do you feel about the Y files?
What's that?
You don't know the Y files?
Hell no, no. What's that?
Okay, so the Y files is this YouTube channel that started off with talking about like strange deep sea fish that were just like weird and almost mystical. However, they evolved into like all kinds of like conspiracy theories and shit. Like they talk about the Anunnaki. They talk about like CIA sponsor. They talk about the fake moon landing. They talk about like the Gateway Project, Project Looking Glass. They talk about MK Ultra. They talk about MJ12. And the host is really good. In fact, it's.
What do you think? What caused them? What caused them to shift? I want to know their origin story. Like, how did they go from?
I think well, the guy himself was like a former TV writer or producer, so he was just always good at producing media. However, I think what caused this shift was they did one episode that was kind of about like some great Earth mystery or something, and it got a lot of likes. And I think that they kind of like tugged on that strand and realized people had a thirst for this shit, you know, like. But then,
yeah,
the guy who makes the channel became personally invested in it, I think. And because he started like getting requests to cover things that he started to care about. For example, he never really believed in conspiracy theories, but once he did like research on like the moon stuff, like the faked moon landing and the test they did to suggest the moon is hollow and like the characteristics of the moon and how it's just so weird, like he was fully converted into like believing that like the moon is some kind of weird artificial structure.
Oh, 100%. The moon is not natural, dude. There's no way that you get something to be the exact distance away and the exact size to cover the exact amount of the totality of the sun that is completely bigger than any other satellite in the entire like known anything. It's not physically possible for it to have gotten there. Like, they have theories. They don't know, dude. Nobody knows how the moon got there. And then you have that they're like launching rockets at it and it's ringing like a bell, like it's hollow, dude, like it's made out of fucking cheese and stone, you know, like metal or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, and all of the craters all go down to the same depth. Have you seen that shit?
Yeah. Like,
that's like, the trippiest part. Like, I don't care about the whole rest of it. I don't care about the missiles. I don't care if that's true. You can literally see the craters all go down to the same place and they stop. Doesn't matter how big the crater is. Check that shit out if you don't believe me. Anybody listening to this, check that shit out. You probably don't want to because it's so real. It's so real, it'll blow your mind. That moon is something else, dude. It's not what we think it is, dude. It doesn't mean it's something bad. It's just not what we think it is. Okay. It's something else.
Here's a theory, and not everyone's going to like it, but my theory is, remember when I mentioned before in the chat, I was like, supposedly there are many planets like Earth that are specifically meant to harvest human civilization like us for all sorts of reasons, you know, for intergalactic slave trade reasons or whatever. And if you actually traveled out to these other planets that were just like ours, that, you know, have the purpose of harvesting, like raising humans and harvesting them, like apparently they also speak English, they drive cars, they wear similar clothes, they listen to similar types of music. And what that would mean is this is happening.
That's fucking terrifying.
What this means is this has been happening for a very, very, very long time. And what this also means is, like, when you look at the moon, that could literally just be a tool used to, like, you know, sustain a planet, you know, like to help sustain an ecosystem or to help like stimulate.
That's totally one way to look at it. I prefer to take an optimistic view that the moon was put there by more benevolent and wise beings, that they found this planet that was in chaos. The weather systems were out of whack. The tides were all over the place. and they came in and they went, stabilize, like, let's just help these people out, like, let's give them a chance.
That is
right?
nice
Like, that could have been where it came from.
But
it could have just been like let's and maybe it was an experiment, maybe it's not, maybe they flew to the other side of the universe and didn't care anymore, but they just saw this planet that could use a little bump. It could be, I don't know.
Well, the reason why I'm not necessarily worried about any of this stuff, like where it's like we live on a prison like planet, farm planet or whatever, I guess it's or like being under the control of reptilians or like demons or whatever, it's, I know none of them are bigger than Source, which is what I identify with. Like, if I do have a soul, which I believe in, that soul, its nature is of the ocean. Like, my soul is just a drop in the overall ocean, and that ocean is greater than any of these fucking demons, reptilians, or whatever, because that's Source. Even the demons come from Source, like, we all come from Source. Right. So it's like, I know
they ain't big, dude. They ain't shit.
They could be bigger than me. I accept that much, but they're not bigger than Source, which is like,
right. What I'm saying is like what you're saying is that you're right. Nothing's bigger than Source, and if we return to Source, whatever that is, then nothing you can do to me.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do to me matters. In fact, there's probably nothing you can do to me that I haven't already done to myself.
And guess what?
In some way, shape, or form.
This is what Obi-Wan meant. This is what he's like, if you strike me down, I'll be more, because he understood. If you kill me, I will just go back to Source. And I understand this. Therefore, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm invincible.
And this is what
you can't touch me.
And this is what demons fear. And like, there's plenty of religious people like who claim they're religious, but they don't understand this. Like, they don't live as if they adopt this. Like, a true Christian, I believe, is like, once I die, my soul will go back to the Lord, and my soul will go back to where it comes from. It will go back. It's just going back home. A Buddhist understands like, oh, if I die, it's just waking up from a dream. I go back to my true self. It's like everyone kind of understands, like, if you truly adopt spiritual or religious or magical reality, you understand death is not the end. Death is really another beginning, if anything. So what you
That's all that really matters.
Exactly. So first of all, that automatically makes you less vulnerable to evil material, interests trying to control you and demons trying to possess you. Second, it's like there's nothing to fear from them, because what are they going to do? They're going to harm you. They're going to kill you. They're going to maim you. Okay, you're going to just bring me back home. All right. like I didn't ask for this. I didn't want to go back, quote unquote, home, but I can't control like bigger demons trying to maul me to death. So I go back home with no regrets. I didn't do anything wrong, And
in fact, they're kind of doing you a favor in a way.
Exactly.
Like this mortal coil, this place is hard, bro. It's rough.
Exactly. So this is why demons, demons know better.
If you're going to quicken my pace to get there, dude, like, okay, I guess that my time here is over. Thanks. Like, bro, you just brought me back. It's all good. I don't care. Like, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like,
this is why
and that's the biggest insult. That's the biggest insult of all, is you're laughing as they're getting you. They think they got you, and you just laugh. Right? Because
but
it ain't over.
This is why, like you said, like the demons and reptilians can't mess with you so overtly. They can't outwardly just kill you and eat you, is because there is way more to. The only way to get you is if you willingly cave to their patterns. Is if you willingly.
And I think the closer to Source you are, the more the repercussions for them if they fuck with you.
Exactly.
Like, it's very serious. It's very serious. Exactly. The higher you become towards Source, then so if you think of it like you've got like a little scale, right? And you've got in the middle of the scale is just like whatever, and then you've got bottom of the scale is pure evil, top of the scale is pure Source, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And you're rising towards the top, then that is going to swing in the opposite direction harder. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
And get them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
it's just the rules.
yeah. And so it's like, this is why the world looks the way it looks. This is why the most evil of the world isn't really overtly like boogeymen breaking into your house and stealing your babies and kidnapping your wives. It's literally like forces that'll convince your wives and convince your kids and convince you to do shit that's evil. To do
yeah, they gotta gotta whisper in your ear.
Exactly. They can't. It will be easier to deal with if they just took the shape of demons and shit. That's like a fantasy because they're easy to deal with that way. You could just kill them with a sword or a gun or like some holy water weapon or some, divine like power friendship type war. No, it's never that simple. It's deeper. It's not. It's not. Like physical monster. Well, sometimes it is, but most of the time.
Plus, they're massive pussies, so they gotta hide.
I don't
They're hiding. They're hiding from the sun, dude. They're like, no, the sun can't get me if I can't be seen.
No,
like
to me,
maybe
that's like an ant saying the humans are hiding from us. No, it's more like to them. It's just it's like us trying to like beat up a shadow. Like, what are you gonna do? Punch a shadow? And it's like it's never gonna work. All you could do is just manipulate your own movements to make the shadow follow.
Wait, say that again, bro.
I mean, them trying to like overtly control us would be like, or to beat on us would be like trying to punch your shadow. It's like you would just hurt your hand. They have to like manipulate their own movements to control their shadow. But I don't know, like it's just because they exist on like one higher dimension. There's still a greater being that exists above them, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, when you're saying like ants hiding from humans, I'm not talking about they're hiding from you. They're not hiding from me. They're hiding from source.
Pretty much. Oh yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is that they're like, ooh, like if I can't see it, you can't see me. I'm in the darkness. I'm hidden. I'm doing this in secret.
And that's their tactics to make you not see source. They'll put like, I don't know. They'll put like fucking. They'll make you question everything about yourself and your identity. They'll make you hate yourself.
Well, think about it at this level. This is what I'm trying to say. Really, is that if you know that there's consequences of bad shit, you're going to try and convince yourself that you can hide from those consequences. And so if you think that you're out of the sun, you're in the shade, and you know that I'm not going back in the sun, man, because that sun will get me. Everything they do in the dark is because they're scared to die, dude. That's what I think. That they're afraid of death because they know that they fucked up so much.
Okay, how about
just so much?
Like, what if you took me from 3 years ago, right? What if you took me from 3 years ago? Me from 3 years ago, who just started a podcast but didn't go through a spiritual awakening or whatever, or 2 years ago, I should say. And I was going through that, and instead of like winning a sword tournament by training really hard, I got invited to a Masonic party or whatever. And ended up doing like god awful shit. Like before I even got to become an adept on my own accord, suddenly my soul is locked into this heinous shit that I did because I thought I wanted to discover the truth.
Right.
And now
in that case, I would say that you didn't get a chance. You didn't get a chance to awaken.
But so this is how it works. I think like that's how they get you. Is they get you before you.
Well, awaken. Right, but on the bright side of that is that, in a sense, you were innocent because you didn't get to taste the knowledge that you could have had.
But what they do is
what you did before that.
But they force the knowledge after the fact that you did what you did. So once you understand what you understand, yeah. So it's too late.
Right, and it's a tactic, right? But that's the thing is that it's never too late to have a change of heart.
Even after
it's never too late. That's the whole Darth Vader thing, bro. Like, it's never too late. Like, Darth Vader was the most cruel, horrible person.
So who do you think would be one of these like satanic pedo cult Hollywood AAA movie stars that would actually like regret their decision so much? They're like, you know what? I'm going to admit to everything we did, everything. I know they're going to kill me in like 30 minutes, but before that happens, I just want to drop all the shit. And you know what?
I think Biden wanted to.
You know what the sad part is?
I think Biden wanted to.
I think even if they did,
allegedly,
I think even if they did do that, sure enough, 30 minutes later they would die. And guess what? Like within hours, we would forget. Like not hours, but like within weeks, we'd be made to forget all about it. We would just write that person off as crazy. All the proof would magically disappear. You know, like it would be that.
Oh, totally. For most people, there'd always be people that remember, though.
Yeah, there'll be that fringe, but
it would be a legend.
But that's all it will be. It will be fringe.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe this entity.
I wonder
has
if
to
there is stories like that. There's got to be.
Of course.
There's got to be stories like that.
I mean, it's not even like there's a picking sides because every side must be guilty of this shit. That's the horrifying part. Like every major institution is culpable. You know, it's not even like because every major institution just wants power. An adept is mostly, you know, like shamans are hermits, right? All like wizards don't really operate in packs. Otherwise, they're not really wizards anymore. They're just magical soldiers, you know, like. Yeah, so it's like it has to be like a independent, solo, autonomous journey. If you're a true like user, you know, even like a lodge of sorcerers, like they all operate independently. They can't. It's hard to like. Maybe that's the thing. Like as a magic user,
right? You've got Saruman or whatever, and you've got Gandalf. They're living in different towers. One of them's in the woods and going and hanging out with hobbits. The other one's in a tower somewhere, like getting whispered in his ear, and they're on different shit. Just because they're wizards doesn't mean they're friends. They just know who each other are, because it's like, oh, that's his fucking zone. I'm staying away from that, dude. There's a wizard over there, bro.
Yeah, so
this is my wizard zone.
Let me ask you something. How do you feel about the concept of like having to, I mean, not having to, but like fucking around with switching frequencies? Like when as we're talking about this stuff, we're in a specific frequency. But then when I talk about like some more ratchet shit, like, I don't know, like crappy brands of ramen or like
boats and hoes.
Yeah, boats and hoes and shit like that. Like, I don't take that for granted. I think that's a beautiful gift. I see that within myself. Like I'm grateful for the ability within myself to do that, because if I wasn't able to do that, and I know people who aren't able to do that, so it's like, I think that in itself is something that we should all like kind of respect, you know, as an ability, so we could cultivate it within ourselves better, you know?
Like the ability to kind of shift gears and take it down a notch.
I mean, that's a simplistic way to put it. I just mean it in a more like mechanical way.
What are you saying exactly?
All right, so like we just established, like the world would be a chaotic place if everyone was just able to do magic, right? If everyone, not smart enough, but more like everyone just had the knowing, like of like what we're truly capable of as manifestors.
Okay.
That's a chaotic world, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So the only way to temper that is for humanity that collectively understands magic as a thing, and that some humans can do, even whether they're conscious of it or not. Like some people just have that fire of will and unconscious manifestation power.
Like not just like whipping it out everywhere they go, or what do you mean?
Like people with the devil's luck, you know?
Nah, bro, I'm kind of missing the.
You never seen people that were just like supernaturally fortunate with shit?
Oh yeah, dude. Like my wife's brother, dude. He wins every single thing he ever enters.
That's what I'm
every
saying.
Sweepstakes, like he can win the claw machine without fail every time. It's weird.
Okay.
Supposedly, I don't know if it's true. You know, everybody exaggerates about that kind of stuff, but like he's won a lot of things. That's all I'm saying. I don't win anything, dude. That's not my thing. That's not my luck. I get lucky in like ways where I just didn't die when I should have, or you know, like things have to be dire for me to get lucky.
Damn, you know what? I just had this weird shift, or in my head, I was like, because this whole time, I mean, I'll admit, I was always like, fuck the occult. Like, bring all this shit out to light. Teach all the idiots, teach all the smart people, just make it more available. Push it in people's faces. But now I'm like, maybe this shit should stay occult, because I'm looking at a world where everyone could like, you know, maybe that's not a good idea. You know, like I don't know.
No, it's occulted for a reason, bro. Like these people aren't just like evil assholes, you know, like there's
like they know, like they have to keep a balance of things, right?
Right, like these people, yeah, sure, there's there's dark wizards or whatever out there and have been or whatever, but like that's not all of them, and it's still occulted, right? So you got to think that there's very good reason for that on some level. And so why would that be?
So luckily the magic I promote isn't really about like control. Like I'm not trying to I mean, I am kind of aware and conscious of the kinds of magic potentially you could use, but either way, no matter what kind of magic you do, I'm more focused on the most fundamental basics of it, which is self-alignment, meaning take care of your body, clean up your mind, and care for your soul, your mind, body, and soul. Like I think that has to be step one, no matter if you're fucking with alchemy, black magic, like any kind of magic, spirituality, spiritual whatever, you really need self-alignment. That's like step one. You know, your body can't just be like this piece of shit.
I think it's step one and step infinity. All of the stuff beyond it is just noise. It's perversions. It's not natural. It's not right.
It's control. It's manipulation.
Right. And so anything that you do that violates another person's free will, it's not. So people think of it like as in like selflessness and selfishness.
Yeah.
But not manipulating people, not forcing other people, not doing anything to trick people is the most selfish thing you can do, in my opinion.
Really?
Because yes, but in a good way. It's because when you realize that everything you do wrong or incorrect to others rebounds back upon you. When you help someone else, it helps you.
Oh yeah, I get it. Fuck altruism.
Eventually, when you help somebody, it helps you.
Yeah. So honestly,
and so the best thing, in my opinion, that a person can do is live in alignment with Source and just live their best life. And that's the most powerful you're going to get. Exactly. Because it's exponential. It comes back to you. So it's like you've gone so far into selflessness that you have become selfish by realizing how beneficial selflessness can be.
Well, it's also, I think it could be also translated to, if you don't expend energy in trying to control others and you pour all that extra energy in trying to control yourself and your own ability to strengthen your own force of will, strengthen your own control over yourself, strengthen your own autonomy, your own ability to be able to manifest without relying on other people. Like the more you strengthen yourself and
no energy is wasted.
Exactly. It all goes back to you. And therefore you get to leave others in peace. And if anyone fucks with you, you're like, dude, you know, like
you're invincible.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you going to do?
You're Naruto, dude.
What are you going to do to me? You know, it's like, as long as you're not hurting anyone I care about, you could do whatever you want to me and it's not going to fucking work because I strengthen myself. You're not stronger than me. You're not better than me. You know, like you're not like less scared than me because like, honestly, you're the one trying to control people. I'm not, because I just want to control myself.
We got to wrap this up. I got to go.
No problem.
Somebody's knocking on my door. I got to get going, bro. I love you. It's been great.
Yeah.
You have yourself a wonderful night.
Yeah. Thanks for chatting, man.
Good times.